The Kanab Hotel and Cafe was built in about 1929. When I was a year old, we moved into it. And next to it was the Bunting Market, Meat Market, and to the right of the Meat Market was the theater. And it was advertised in November 1929 as steam-heated hotel rooms and dining room, lobby, and large kitchen at the rear of the building. My father had it built it in that year, and we lived there 14 years until World War II, when the tourist business dropped to nothing because of gasoline being rationed. So then we lost the hotel and had to move out. And the Sears company built a small store on the left side of it. This is built right across the street from the Kanab Chapel, downtown Kanab.
So when you lived there, that Sears building wasn't there?
Right.
And it said?
It said Kanab Hotel.
Not,
top of it.
Okay.
Now it says Hotel Kanab. And the Utah State Owner Association came one day when my twin brother and I were 14, and with Mother and Dad went through and listed everything there and took it all from us.
Oh.
Every knife, fork, and spoon and bed and chair. My mother was in tears as they walked around to tabulate everything. And fortunately, my parents believed in following the prophet, and they had a 2-year supply of food. And they didn't take the food, and we had an old Dodge truck, and we moved out into Uncle Lloyd Chamberlain's house that he had just vacated. And he went to Salt Lake to find work and got permission from him to live there until we built a house on the farm. So by this time we had lost the ranch and the hotel, the cafe, and the cottages went with it. There were 2 cottages in the back. And so we lived a few months in the Lloyd Chamberlain's house until we finished the basement of the house on the farm east of Kanab, about a mile. And then we moved there and finished that house later on.
So how long were you living? How long did you live in the Kanab Hotel?
14 years.
14 years.
So it was about 1942 or 43 when we moved out.
Do you remember anything that happened in there? Did you have?
Oh yes.
What were your duties, or?
Later on, when we got to be 8 or 9 years of age, we were acting as bellhops for waiting on movie stars that stayed there, and some of them were like Clark Gable and Franchot Tone, Fred McMurray, Burl Ives, and a few other movie stars stayed with us, and they were entertaining. And Bonnie, my little sister, was sometimes coerced into performing for them by my mother.
Did she sing?
She sang and danced and twirled a rope, and we had a trick horse named Patches that would do tricks with her. And the movie was made of her called Miss Cowgirl. And her movie name was Penny Lane.
Oh.
Her name was Avon, or we called her Bonnie. She was born 5 years after we were born. And I found out recently that she was born in the Kanab Hotel.
Oh, really?
All my life I thought she was born in the hospital, the Kanab Hospital.
Wow. Was that? You don't know if that was planned.
I don't know.
That sounds interesting.
Anyway.
Was there a story about Garth falling out of the top one of those windows?
No, across the street was the chapel, and to the left and west of the chapel was an old Ward Hall, wooden building, and it had a steeple And when he first moved to Kanab from Alton, he and some boys climbed up into the steeple and they're climbing around on the roof, and he fell off and landed on the sidewalk, the cement sidewalk. The story was that his eyes both bulged out and he broke both wrists on his arms. And but he got okay after. That was before I knew anything about it. Also, there was an incident when there was a rather obstinate salesman came there, and he had told the waitress after she set the table for him and got his order, he wanted to change the place where he sat to eat at another table where he could look out the big picture window on the east side of the cafe. And so she begrudgingly set his things over there. And he just got set down to eat a steak dinner when there was heard a rifle shot. And some plaster from the ceiling fell down on his dinner.
Oh, no.
And he jumped up and ran out and never came back. And it turned out that my father, Guy, had shown Lamont and Cloyd 30 rifle downstairs in the basement where we lived. And Lamont thought that after my dad left and went back upstairs to the cafe, that it should be put away without a bullet in it. So he was showing Cloyd how to get the bullet out, and it went off and went up through the ceiling and up through the chair where the man had been sitting. Had he not moved to a different table, it would have gone right up through his body.
Oh, wow.
And he would have been killed. So it was a fortunate thing for him. He moved to the other table. He went up and on a slight angle over to the other table and dropped plaster down, and they thought at first there's two men who had come in arguing, went upstairs to their room, and they thought those two men were shooting at each other from upstairs. Yeah. And the bullets went down through the floor. And the sheriff was there and a whole bunch of people there trying to figure out what happened. And meantime, Lamont ran up and hid behind the ice box in the kitchen. And Cloyd went up to the front another way to try to tell Dad what happened, but nobody listened to him. He was a little boy, about 4 or 5 years of age. And someone ran down the street, and at that time the only movie theater was a garage, and there was a movie going on in the garage. And Garth was in there watching the movie, and somebody came in and yelled, "Garth shot Lamont in the Kanab Hotel," and everybody jumped up, and Garth said, "To hell I did." And the whole crowd ran up to the hotel to see what was going on, about a block away, and everybody's in a quandary as to what happened. Finally, Cloyd got my dad's attention and told him that the gun went off down in the basement. So then I could see the evidence, and sure enough, the bullet went up through the floor, up through the chair, and up the ceiling, and they resolved the mystery.
Wow.
That's all written in my life story, by the way.
Okay.
With Cloyd's help, he filled in things I didn't know. I was just probably maybe a year and a half or so old when that happened.
Okay.
They were tending me and my brother downstairs.
Oh.
But we had lots of interesting things there.
So it's three stories, actually.
Yeah.
The basement, the main floor, and the upper.
Yeah. And in those days, it seemed like the biggest hotel in the world, but years later, it seemed to have shrunk very badly.
Yeah.
It's only about 20 feet across the front. I couldn't believe it. Seemed like a huge place. But Thomas and I would earn money in the lobby. There was a overstuffed chair and a couch, and people would sit in the chair, and round dollar coins would roll out of their pockets down under the cushion. And unbeknown to them, we would go around there quite often and gather up money from the cushions under the couch,
Oh.
inside the couch. That's where we got some of our money. And let's see.
So is this where you could have an ice cream or shake or
Yeah.
anytime you wanted?
Yeah, because my father was expert at making ice cream. At the ranch where we were born, he made ice cream as a part of the business and sold it to the different towns along the way between Kanab and the ranch, and even out to the Grand Canyon and sometimes down to Zion's Park Lodge. They sold 5 gallons of ice cream at a time, and had the cows to milk the cows and make ice cream out of the cream and the milk. And let's see, my first grade teacher, Mary Nelson, a beautiful young lady, lived upstairs in one of the front rooms upstairs, and we loved Mary Nelson very much. Our school was just a one-room school across a little in the small building behind the town hall on the square where the church was across the street. So we didn't have very far to walk to school. Our first grade school, we didn't have a kindergarten. There was a pot-belly stove in it. And one day, I thought, it was on a hot day, I just thought it would be really nice to take this girl I was really interested in, Doreen Ford, I think it was her name. I thought it would be nice to take her an ice cream cone. That's the biggest mistake in the world. Because when some of the other kids saw me give that to her, then they formed a circle around us dancing, Johnny loves Doreen, Johnny loves Doreen.
Oh.
And from then on, I never looked at her again, ever. I swore off women forever. I was so embarrassed.
Oh. Now your dad, at his funeral, had a lot of Native Americans come. And somebody told me that he gave them a lot of ice cream and things.
Yeah.
They were, did he do that from the hotel?
Yeah.
Do you remember any?
My mother, Vera, was born on the reservation, an Indian reservation at Moccasin, Arizona. And so she knew the Paiute Indians there very well. And they would come and barter and trade big bags of pine nuts for flour, or they would buy things from them with flour, like Navajo rugs and things like that they would gather up. But one time, when Thomas and I were maybe 3 or 4, this one Indian squaw, who knew my mother very well, as she was about to leave, she says, "Okay, I will take the twins with me." And we were frightened. We ran and hid and cried behind the door. We thought they were going to take us away on the Indian reservation. We didn't know them very well. Us kids didn't. That was a good joke on us.
Yeah.
But we lived in the basement, and we ate our dinners and things in the kitchen. And my father built 2 cottages behind the hotel to rent out to families. And we lived in one of those cottages for a year, at least part of a year maybe. I remember that was the first time we all sat around the same table and ate together and had family prayer at mealtime for several months there. It felt so good because we were all too busy. We could eat whenever we wanted to because the food was there already, and we hardly ever sat down together to have dinners because it was always there handy in the cafe.
Are those cottages still there? Either one of them?
One of them is gone, but one is still there. And I have photographs of that in my last story.